The second Glasgow Derby of the season was set to take place on Sunday the 2nd of January 2022. However, in late 2021, Nicola Sturgeon and the SNP announced that they would be imposing new coronavirus restrictions across the country. As part of those restrictions, football crowds would be limited to just 500 people. For many clubs, this was a situation that they wanted to avoid if at all possible. Several SPFL clubs released statements suggesting that the league bring the winter break forward, whilst others released statements suggesting that the league engage with clubs and plan a more suitable way ahead. 10 clubs were on record as being in favour of bringing that winter break forward, with 2 against, and those 2 were theRangers and Ross County. Eventually, the SPFL went to each club with 3 options. One option was to carry on as planned. Another option was to play the game on Boxing Day and then bring the winter break into effect. This would actually help to avoid a fixture pile-up later in the season, and it would mean that 2 games could be played in front of more full stadiums, whilst only 1 would be sacrificed with crowds of 500. And the last option was that the winter break come into play as soon as restrictions started affecting crowds at football. But eventually it was decided that the Boxing Day fixtures would go ahead to get that fixture pile-up avoided, and then the winter break has come into effect. Now, this made sense to most football managers, players and supporters, although at Ibrox it seems to have caused quite a stir. Indeed, the goalkeeper at Ibrox, Alan McGregor, recently done an interview with the mainstream media channel, and he started talking about sporting integrity and said that he couldn't understand why we weren't going ahead as planned. I don't know if Alan McGregor knows how democracy works, but if 10 out of the league's 12 clubs have put on record and voted to bring that winter break forward, then it would suggest that you go ahead with that overwhelming majority rather than suiting the position of 2 clubs. It's also quite strange that some conspiracy has been put out from certain supporters to suggest that this decision has been made to favour Celtic because of injury problems. Yet 9 other clubs voted in favour of that position, so that must mean that all 9 other clubs in the league that voted this way are somehow wanting to assist Celtic in their title challenge, rather than simply just wanting to have full stadiums and sort of get the financial and sporting rewards that come with that as well. I mean, if you were looking at it from a sport and integrity point of view, you could argue that the reverse fixture between Celtic and the Rangers that was played at Ibrox, that was played in front of 50,000 people, so then it surely wouldn't be fair for Celtic to have to play that fixture at home with only 500 people. There's also been a narrative kind of put across that Celtic are scared of playing against the Rangers with injury problems and without a big crowd. But that argument could be flipped on its head and say, well, are the Ibrox club scared of going to a full Pittodrie or a full Celtic Park, or playing in front of a fully fit Celtic team? But Ange Postecoglou put that whole nonsense to bed quite concisely after the Boxing Day win over St Johnstone. In an interview of his own with the mainstream media channel, Ange said that the issue of injuries was totally separate from anything else. He said that he'd endured a full season in Japan last year behind closed doors, so he didn't want to return to having near enough empty stadiums again, and evidently 9 other clubs shared that position with Celtic and with the Celtic manager. So the Glasgow Derby was moved to February, and strangely that fixture now could be in doubt. The league rules state that if you have 3 players or more away on international duty, then you can request a postponement. Now, Celtic could have up to 6 players away on international duty. We have 4 Japanese players, with 3 of those being new signings, so they could all be away. Tom Rogic could be away with the Australian national team, and Carter Vickers could be called up to the USA. At Ibrox, Rangers could have 3 players away as well. Morelos, Arabo and Arfield. But as we know from past experience, the Rangers don't ever request postponements for international issues. Anyway, talks of postponement coming from the Celtic camp seems unlikely, because Ange Postecoglou has spoken about the matter and has expressed that he's kind of accepted that the players will be away if they're called up. Says it's a World Cup, so there's no negotiation and the club are obliged to release the players, and they will. And he's also kind of shown no interest in getting those games postponed. So at the moment it seems likely that the match will go ahead as planned in February, but should players get called up from either club, then that does open up the possibility that the match could be moved again, particularly as they're quite significant players at each camp.